All right, we are back for episode 2 of season 3 of Your Where With Who. This is Kate. I'm joined by Usman, and we have Philly legend on with us today, Ben Arsenal. Thank you so much for being on with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Excited to chat, even looking through your bio linked to your Instagram. I don't even know where to begin with you. You do so many different things that I'm like, we got so many different questions for you. You're in the event space, you're in the DJ space. Maybe the best place for us to start this conversation today is take us through where you started in music. How did music become a part of your life?
Started with the drums, honestly, when I was maybe 11 or 12 years old. My stepbrother at the time brought home an electric guitar, and I was standing outside and I just heard this like incredible sound. I was like, I want to do anything like that. I was like
Yeah.
little brother syndrome basically. Um, and so I like somehow convinced my mother to get me a drum set and really got into it. I grew up in Vermont. A lot of kind of like rock, blues was the thing, hip hop,
Yeah.
reggae, jazz, and that opened the doors to recording music. That kind of started in high school where I was drumming and the engineer kind of at the same time. I didn't realize that was like two different things, but I had like a mini disc recorder hooked up to a mixer and a bunch of, we would do like our rock bands and our jazz bands and stuff. And
Okay. Jam sessions
yeah,
Yeah.
jams.
with the
And,
friends.
we had
Yeah.
this kind of like joke band that was called Gold Plated Luxury that was like, kind of sarcastic, but a lot of good musicians. So we did the recordings at my parents' house and
Sure,
got
they
into
love
the
that.
digital recording. Yeah, so that kind of opened up to like making beats. And a good friend of mine, growing up when I was probably closer to 18, showed me Reason, and this is what a drum machine does, or drum sequencer rather. And that's when I was like, wow, like if I could figure out a way to, you know, have a loop and tweak it the way that I wanted in my mind, then I
Yeah.
think I'd love this, and it kind of became like an obsession. And obviously 20 years later, that's what I'm still doing. So
And I suppose it's just really progressed from there. It sounds like it started as self-study almost and
for
just a
sure,
general
for
passion.
sure.
Did you have any professional like schooling around music, or was it all teaching yourself with your friends?
Yeah, I mean, with drumming, I was taking lessons and learning kind of like rudiments and the basics. And then when after I graduated high school, I had some extended family marry into a Senegalese family, and they invited me to go with my stepsister to Senegal. So that's opened up kind of I was already interested in like Afro Brazilian stuff. I got turned on to that by my stepdad, kind of like Ashe, which is more like you know, big, massive groups of drummers and like very sparse melody, but huge drum lines. And I love that from the drumming background, like all these polyrhythms. And so then when I got to Senegal, they're like, yo, check this out. This is Fela Kuti. This is
Yeah.
Salif Keita. This is,
Yeah.
the contemporary Afrobeat stuff that was just trying to come out. That was like 2005. So, like the Afro pop, whatever. But when I got there, I was like assigned like a drum teacher. It's like, here's our, rudiments, our basics. Here's a drum. Then we'd go out to the field and just play. And then, okay, cool. Now try this other instrument, so it's like djembe, junjun, and the fundamentals to that like really shaped because I was just getting into like electronic music then as well.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, wonder what would happen if I took like these rudiments and put these sounds with it, and so like my earlier beats had kind of the intersection of electronic and roots, Afro roots stuff from just getting a flavor of that and really loving that side of that part of the world's music. So
Dang. Wow. I never knew that you went to Senegal. Um my neighboring country is Gambia, where
yeah.
my parents are from.
Oh, no kidding. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So I'm Gambian. I wonder
Amazing.
if you actually get to like learn the language a little bit or no.
Yeah, a little Wolof, yeah.
Yeah.
A
Oh,
little bit, a little bit. I loved it. It was, like, very transformational, you know? It was, like, one of those experiences where, you know, you realize how generous and, like, warm people can be
yeah.
and give you everything that they have and just not even sweat it, you know? It was like it was nothing, you know? It was like, "Cool, you need $1? Well, I have $8," you know? Let's break bread," and it was like, "Whoa," you know? So
Yeah.
that was pretty incredible, aside from the music, of course, but, that was definitely a transformational period, you know, understanding that, and then spending some time in Europe. I was actually in Europe when I was, like, 16. I did a exchange program, and that's when I started kinda sneaking into the clubs, and so that was like, "Whoa, Daft Punk," and "Whoa." So, it's actually the fun fact that 7th grade DJ as well, so it's kinda like iTunes 1.0 selecting, you know, next track, and then I got to France, and it was like, "Okay, club. Oh, that's a DJ. Wow, this was, like, the best night of my life," you know, so much fun, incredible dance party, and then the next night I went back, I was like, "I need more of that," and then the DJ wasn't as good. I was like, "Wow, the DJ dictates, you know, so much."
Yeah.
So that was sort of like one of those, like, aha moments, and then getting to Senegal and, like, just, like, the raw power of the drums and, "Whoa, maybe this can mesh with electronic music." You know, it's kinda happening, already in Ibiza and whatnot, but I didn't quite know about it at that point. But
Damn. That's
passports are, you know, it's like, the most beautiful, resource that we have, and I wish that for everyone to get a passport and
That
step
is
out of the
true.
comfort zone a bit.
You're absolutely a world traveler. One of the things that I like that you reference on your website is how so much of your style is informed by your different cultural experiences.
For sure, for
Are
sure.
there other places that you would say you'd like to add to the list to travel to that maybe you haven't gotten to go to?
For sure. I've been thinking a lot about Turkey for some reason. I
Okay.
haven't been never been to Turkey. Let's see. Had the chance to, you know, go to Iraq and Morocco, and
mm,
I was just with my partner in, Ethiopia. We did some pretty cool recordings when we were there that are, like, making their way into sets now. So that was kinda crazy 'cause there's not a lot of, like, Western influence or
mhm,
DJs for that matter that make it to Ethiopia, so, I met up with these 3 really amazing artists, this guy Gide, uh, Daggy, he goes by Call Me Daggy, and Rumi, and they're, like, 3 young up and coming vocalists, and so we did the session in his apartment studio. You know, they just passed the mic around, and
Yeah.
I was just literally on my laptop just, like, hammering beats. You know, I got some sounds together before. I was like, "I think this would be cool." I kinda play something, like,
yeah.
literally on my laptop, keyboard like a keyboard. They're like, "Oh, yeah, that's cool. Cool, cool, cool." So we just do it, and then they just start, like, writing, and we were there for, like, a good 4 or 5 hours, and we wrote, like, 3 tracks, just boom. Did, like, a follow-up session, they kinda, like, polished the vocals a bit. Yeah, now they're starting to, uh, kill it in my sets, and seeing the reaction in Philly is crazy. Actually, the other night at Departed, the guy who very old friend of mine, who's a promoter, kind of artist manager here, he's grew up in Addis Ababa, and he
mhm,
connected me with his brother, who lives there now, and he was the guy that found the artists and kind of built that bridge. So it was like a two-part bridge there. And I was at Depart and I played the song, and he happened to come up to the DJ booth then. He's like, "Man, this is so cool. Sounding great." I was like, "This is because of you." He's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Your brother introduced me." I like pointed to the track. He looked at it. I was like, "This is your language." And he was like, "What?" You know, it was like this moment, like it was so cool. We had a full circle moment there for sure.
Very full circle. That's a great segue into talking a little bit more about what you're doing with
yeah.
Departed as an event group, I guess you would call it.
But yeah.
Tell us
Yeah.
how you developed that.
That kinda came out of, the pandemic. Uh, I was kind of searching for like the next chapter, just to like evolve a bit. And I kind of like a couple things happened at the same time. I realized it's kind of like watching these like bios on DJs that had like made it and, taken it to like a whole nother level. What I realized is that a lot of these guys had their own like event series. Steve Aoki, as much as,
Yeah.
I
So
don't love his
know
music
that.
that much. I like respect his hustle and his work ethic. And he's like takes it very seriously, and his health is a priority and really works his ass off. He was talking about how he started this party in LA and it became this uh like incredible kind of like networking vehicle for him where he would like host people, and it was even before he was like DJing, he was like hosting and meeting all these people and you know curating this vibe so that he became known as this guy with this cool vibe and built up a Rolodex. And then when he started DJing, he's like, I have this incredible network now. So he starts, calling and, hey guys, I'm going to be in Europe. I'm going to be in wherever, wherever. And so that was sort of like okay, I could do that. I think just requires like organizing the back end a bit, which at the end of the pandemic, it's like, okay, let's reimagine the process a bit, kind of lent itself to evolution. And then, I had another instance where I was, um, right before the pandemic, actually, I went to Morocco. We did a little family thing there. And previous to going, I wrote an email to the studio that I found. I said, hey, I'm going to be here for like a week. Here's my work. I have a background of working with live musicians with my project World Town, kind of fusing uh, international sounds with house and um, wrote a little email. I was like, you know what, something might happen, it might not. And then one day I'm like, you know, just getting my day started and I get this like FaceTime call from France. Like, who's calling me from France? It was so random. I didn't have the number. So I pick it up and it's this like Moroccan Rasta dude. He's like, yo, bro, it's Momo Africa. I got your message on social media. I was like, what's up, man? It was like this random thing. I was like, wow, what's going on? And he was like, listen, I got your message. I'm gonna send you the number to Yassine. He's the guy that manages the studio. I'm actually in France. I just keep an eye on the social accounts. But this is the guy. He's working with this great band. Hopefully you guys can do something cool. So I was like, whoa, okay. So I messaged Yassine, hey, I'm coming. These are the dates. I'd love to, book the studio. I'm happy to rent the studio or whatever. I'd love to collaborate. This is the kind of music I do, XYZ. I just get a short message back. We're waiting for you, brother. I was like, all right, perfect. So we like pull up, send him a message. Hey, he says, come over. We're going to just hang out. I just want to meet you. I said, okay, that's nice. So we go over there. It's him and this guy, Baba from Mali, who's like a master percussionist, drum maker. So I'm sitting in the studio with these guys. We're playing music back and forth. Here's my new track. And then he's like, this is my band. We're working on this album. Check this out. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. So this part of Morocco, which is more southern on the coast, is called Essaouira. And they're famous for this style called Ganawa music. That's like called the original trance. It's like kind of spiritual, but very dance oriented,
Mhm.
super repetitive. So it's like, I had been there when I was in college and kind of got turned on to this. That's why I like wrote the message because I was like, someday it'd be a dream to like go back to Essaouira and actually like collaborate. And so what I realize is like the parallels with house music. It's just like a lot of repetitions. The bass lines are with this instrument called the gimbri. That's like it's almost like it's like a electric bass, but almost like half bass, half drum. And so it's like either two or three strings and the Malim, the guy, the maestro of the of the of the dance, I guess you could say, is usually the gimbri player and the lead singer.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, this would be crazy. So I didn't even realize how connected these guys were, but it turns out they work with like one of these a Melim who's like a legendary, third or fourth generation musician, and he's the leader of their band. And so they had this band called Mokhtar Ghania, which is the guy, and Ganawa Soul, which is the band.
Mhm.
And so I'm there for like 4 hours. He said, "All right, cool. Tomorrow I want you to come back to meet Melim." And I was like, "Wow, okay." So I'm gonna meet the master, you know. So we kind of went through like 2 days of like meet and greets. And then after the second day, we had this amazing hang. The guy was like radiant, warm, you know, just so he's like BB King of like Ganawa music, you know, this massive, just giant teddy bear of a guy, you know what I mean? And just like beautiful soul. And so he said, I like you. Why don't we record tomorrow? I was like, all right, great. So I went back to the hotel, got a couple of beat ideas together, had some like demos that I was working with the artists in the US. And then we ended up going into the studio for like 3 straight days and doing these recordings. And so fast forward how it relates to Departed is um during the pandemic. So I got back on March like 8th or 10th or something. It was almost to the day 2020, 5 years ago now, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Within I think it was within 3 or 4 days of getting back to the US, they announced like complete global shutdown.
Yep.
So all of a sudden I was like, whoa, just epic experience. But now I'm like locked down. But the good news is I had all these recordings that we just did. All right, so I have some homework to do. So that kind of like gave me some fuel to like keep going because it was obviously like super depressing. World Town had all of our like summer tour canceled. All my DJ gigs were canceled. All my teaching work that I was doing a lot of like with kids and um in the university were got basically shut down. I ended up doing a little bit of virtual, but so it was like this like existential crisis of, okay, am I doing the right thing with my life? And also here I am, this like privileged white guy in the US while like the whole world's like suffering and I'm just like making beats. So it was like oh my God. So luckily I had this like really wholesome like spiritual music to like lean into.
Mhm.
Went to the studio, ended up doing a remix for them that like they ended up using that to like promote their new album, which was out on like Universal Middle East North Africa, which is sort of like a
Amazing.
um crazy story in its own. And that's on YouTube. They shot a video for the remix and
Oh,
used that
wow.
to promote. And I ended up going back to France to tour with them from that. So I was like, whoa. But then we did this other track with a friend of mine who's in like the high fashion world.
Mhm.
We came up with this sort of like crossover idea, like concept track called Cuckoo Salam. That's like cuckoo is in French, which like cuckoo is sort of like a cute like hello kind of thing. And salam is like peace and like hello greeting in
Yeah.
the Arabic world.
Mhm.
And so we came up with this concept, Cuckoo Salam, that was like based around the music that we had recorded during my trip there. And then we kind of like made up some lyrics to like try this concept. And it all came together pretty well. And I sent it to their manager, who's a like former executive at Universal, and he like loved it. He was like, "This could be the thing that like helps expose the world to Ganawa music and helps like the French world and the Moroccan world like connect on a deeper level because it's like this like acknowledgement between cultures kind of."
Yeah.
And so he got like super excited about it and ended up back in Europe. And he's like, I'm getting you a meeting with the head of Sony France. We're gonna get this record signed. Watch. If this guy won't sign it, he wouldn't take this meeting. So I was like, oh my God, my career's about to take off. I'm getting signed by Sony. We're gonna be traveling the world. And like in my mind, I'm just like, finally, I get a break. So I get there, we have this meeting with this guy. It goes so well. He's like, "Oh, I love it. So cool, so cool. Boom, boom, boom. Nice to meet you. I'm gonna follow up. This is so great. Thank you for coming." And meanwhile, I had a gig in Switzerland with this group that was sort of immersive house music, international, Afro, tech, blah, 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 blah. Very similar to what I was interested in, but it wasn't really hadn't taken off in Philly.
Mhm.
And so I get over to Switzerland after this meeting. I'm all pumped. Yeah, I'm about to get signed to Sony. Da 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 da. Yeah, okay, let's do this gig. Okay, cool, good times. It was great. I get back to the States and the guy goes, you know what? I'm sorry. We got a new CEO. They're only doing French hip hop. We can't sign the record. I was like,
Dude, come on.
so that was like coming out of the pandemic. So the friend that brought me to Switzerland who got me the booking, Moose, I give him credit for this. He and I like from that failure, I was like, I need to just start my own thing. No one's gonna do this for me. And he was a huge supporter by bringing me to Switzerland. He like believed in what I was doing and built that bridge and everything. And he said also, I'll help you make this happen. So we ended up getting a venue that a friend of mine owned this warehouse. And I was like, I don't care about making money. Let's break even, but let's throw the coolest thing that we can like dream up.
Yeah.
So we like rented all these like crazy projectors and like projection mapped the whole building and the sound system and XYZ. And we just went like, okay, absolute dream. I don't really care about making money. Let's just try to break even. Got all these friends to help promote it, but da 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 da. And then all of a sudden Departed was born. And that was like fresh off the heels of a track that I did with a local guy, Joshua Mitchell, Departed for the Evening. So I was like, I'm just gonna take this kind of concept of like taking off and just simplify it. And some people were like, oh, I don't know, it sounds like a little dark. I was like, just watch. We're just gonna keep it simple and we're gonna make it like we came up with the Moose and I came up with this term deep happy, so it's like this kind of like deep purples and reds and it's a little bit out of this world, but uplifting, bring people together, blah, 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 international music. And so that's where Departed was born. We did one episode and people were like, when's the next one? And so it was like, it's game on from there. So we built it up and then obviously now we're at the Ave. We're
Mhm.
doing some different places, but it's sort of like an established thing. We just had the first episode of the fourth season on Saturday. So
Yeah.
That's amazing. So how many events would you say total you've thrown
that was the
since its inception?
26th.
Okay, that was the 26th. That's crazy.
Departed, yeah.
Wow.
I don't know how you have the time to do all this.
It's
You're
my
like
full-time job.
bouncing back and
Yeah.
forth. You're in
Yeah.
different countries. You got party after party.
But I mean, it literally takes so much energy and work that a lot of people I don't think like understand. They're just like, oh, it's a fun party. And that's the whole point, obviously. But it's like so much coordination. Like I have a whole team working on, the marketing side of it, the operations side of it. We have like probably 10 people working behind the scenes, for the entire lead up, doing different things. So
Now, do you make
Yeah.
it something new and different every single time? How do you change what the party's centered around?
well, I definitely put a lot of like reinvestment efforts into like the art and that kind of like kills two birds with one stone, which is like supporting like local artists and also expanding like the identity and the the actual experience. The other thing is we always like rotate DJs. I try to I'm always like on the lookout for new like performers and musicians and stuff to do different pop-up experiences, make it interesting. So
Yeah. I know you mentioned the AB, obviously here in
Yeah.
Philly that we know and love, and your initial one in Europe. Where else have you done pop-ups for Departed?
we've done Brooklyn, we did two at Superior Ingredients. There was a small venue in Lancaster that we did one that was actually really cool. Bit more intimate, it's just a smaller crowd size there, but great vibe. And then we're talking with a couple different places, basically from like Boston down to Florida, um, about getting it organized. So
East Coast centered
Yeah.
so far.
yep.
So, in doing the events and then be on the producing side of things. Which one would you say that you enjoy more doing? Like creating the music and actually being able to perform it at these events, or knowing that you're going through the journey of creating the event and that's the enjoyment that you love?
I mean, the reason I throw events is to support creating the music, you know, because the reality with like streaming and like record sales is that it's just, unless you have like a major hit that's like essentially like a pop record, it's not really gonna financially like contribute much to the pot, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was another part of the realization, was like, okay, events are actually what is gonna help support it, you know what I mean? And so I mean, creating music itself is like definitely my happy place, but putting the event together and then seeing it, happen, and the reaction and the joy and all the people coming together, that's like massively rewarding on its own. So if I had a choice, I would rather be in the studio than like,
Yeah.
organizing and everything. But still, like, I'm grateful that I can do that and it actually be like a positive impact to the city. You know what I mean?
What would you say then is okay, the event that I curated, I kind of walk away from it. No, like it's become its own thing. And I could like kind of then just focus on the music aspect of it. What does that look like? What's the vision for The Departed in maybe say like next 5 years? So you get to that point.
Yeah, so definitely, I've been working closely with a couple of folks. One of them is my operations manager now, who's like come like an incredible distance from when we first started working together. And now he's producing these events for, Daybreaker and the Governor's Ball of Maryland. And this is just in the last couple of years. He was just super ambitious, super ready to learn, and passionate about it, frankly, which is a great combination for growth. And so he's been stepping up big time, which has been super helpful. And then I have a dear friend, and he's like our label manager for the actual music releases that we do under Departed,
Mhm.
who's out in LA, and he's been building some amazing bridges. So that the idea is to get some, competent management that can handle kind of scaling and supporting on a bigger scale, to, work with us. But right now we're kind of, it's tough because it's a massive production, but it's not like we're at a point where I can hire like a production team just to take it over.
Yeah.
We're just not, it's not like profitable like that, you know what I mean? It's like self-sustaining, which is great, but the goal is to, sell those extra 100 tickets where that makes such a big difference at this point. So thank you everybody who's listening, who buys the occasional ticket,
Yep.
Um, but we're definitely getting to a point where it's like we're doing well in Philly, we're getting some recognition in New York, starting to get these other places. And so the idea is just to keep pushing these collaborations with these bigger artists, which is happening organically,
Mhm.
like Tomer in New York has been a big advocate. Aaron Hirsch, who we just had on Saturday, he wants to help us kind of co-create something in Miami. So it's like those, organic relationships that are, mutually beneficial and, opening some doors. So
Yeah, no, I get that. Since like the approach is like slow but steady.
for
Don't
sure.
no
Yeah.
no need to rush it to get to the I guess goal line. It seems like the path you guys are taking right now is to stay focused, stay the course, um, and make sure the blinders are on and get to the goal line. So I think it's a smart approach because I was in the event space. I think we had conversations before in the past about it, and we didn't do that. We tried to do too much all at once and go big, um, and it just floundered. poorly. And so I commend you taking the Departed to the where it is now, because I've been to the events in the past and they're phenomenal. Like it's
Appreciate it.
absolutely amazing experience. For anyone that's listening, I highly recommend going and attending one of these events. You just be there like in a trance, and it's a great, great, phenomenal production. I had no idea that all this talent was in Philadelphia, but it's great to see it.
It's fun, like kind of being the magnet, and getting all these different folks out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
So
Can
I
you
think
tell
it's also
us?
like a super positive thing, for Philly's nightlife culture because we do have people that are interested in the music and the art and it's sort of like a cross of like the burner culture and Ibiza and kind of South American carnival culture or something all in one. So it's definitely brings out a interesting variety of characters.
Can you tell us anything about your next upcoming event? I know that you're going to be having one right around when your episode releases next month. What can you tell us at this point about that? Anything to look
Yeah,
forward
so
to?
that one is we're actually taking over the pool at Harrah's in Atlantic City.
Oh, that's awesome. It's a
It's like
great
this
space.
kind of indoor like biodome experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little interesting because it's connected to the casino, but when you actually get in there, it's a pretty amazing venue, honestly. It's this giant glass dome, and so the idea was they booked me to do a opening for Nora and Pure in January,
Mhm.
and
Nice.
when we got there, I was like, wow, this is actually really awesome. And he was like, I really want to bring Departed, and it was like, okay, that's didn't expect to have that conversation, but um, we're about to announce it, and we have some pretty cool DJs, and we're gonna bring the experience. And the idea is like a kind of a tropical retreat, an hour from Philly in the middle of April, so everybody's gonna probably be a little stir crazy and kind of perfect timing.
Yeah.
Um, so
That's an awesome venue. I've been
yeah,
there a
I
couple
think
of
it'll be
times.
interesting.
Reminds me of being in like, what are they called? Terrariums? The things that have
Yeah,
Yeah.
plants in them. Like it kind
yeah,
of gives me that vibe.
yep.
It's a lot of fun though.
Well, I
That'll
hope
be a
you can
great
come.
experience. Absolutely. We're there. We're game.
Great.
Something that I want to kind of circle back around to when we're speaking about your own personal style when you're DJing as Ben Arsenal. Can you walk us through a little bit of your process when you're remixing or you're making your own tracks? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's my focus lately has been just making stuff that's really playable, for DJs. So it's like my background's in drumming, obviously, so percussion's a huge part of the formula for me.
Yeah.
And just finding some like uplifting melodies. It's a very specific kind of music 'cause it's made for clubs and festival vibes. And so um finding vocals that are I really like vocals in my music that tell a cool story or bring a certain kind of energy. Drums are huge, and then just making sure that it moves. It's like getting like dialing it to a point where it's undeniably fun and uplifting.
So it sounds like you're
Yeah.
going for energy first and foremost,
For sure,
the energy of
for
the
sure.
track, and then it builds off of that.
I love that.
That's what I look for sure when I'm doing remixes. Like, does this vocal have a certain kind of energy? And there's, like one of the things I learned from the Ganawa musicians, the way that they look at music is actually in colors. There's like 7 colors of music, which is really interesting. So it's like thinking of it as like a kind of rainbow spectrum.
Mhm.
And if you kind of break down music like that, I can't necessarily like put it into words. I'm sure they have a description, but when they described that to me, it was like, whoa, that's a really interesting way to think of it. Because you can have something that's energetic, but there's a lot of different types of energetic, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Different tonality to it. I would almost
Tonality,
think, the way that the emotion ties into it.
for sure. Yep. So bringing that kind of, story arc where I was like seeing, the beginning and the ending kind of tying together. So kind of creates that full circle. So I definitely try to go for that and keep, like at Departed, I'll try to boost the energy early and get, just captivate the audience and then go into some deeper, more melodic, more story oriented kind of stuff. And then come back to more minimal and then energetic at the end. So it kind of has that full, the different flavors, but has the full circle effect.
We're taking people on a journey.
Yeah.
Full journey. I love that.
It's the idea.
Playing in Philly, can you describe how the music scene in particular, compares to like other cities you played at, and what separates Philadelphia from other cities, whether it's uniqueness or lack of it, in the sense that like Philly's not there yet in terms of like what you're what you're seeing in other countries. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think Philly's there now. It may not have like the numbers necessarily, but
Yeah.
people are, like I always say like during the pandemic, people really shifted their like listening habits. It went from kind of like radio, like what can I sing along to more like adventurous, like, boiler room, circle, kind of these videos where it's like shifted the mindset, which I think is a core part of house music, which is, hey DJ, play me something I've never heard before that I'm gonna love. You know what I mean? Instead of like, obviously it's nice to have a little sing along moment here and there, but some familiarity. But I think Philly's like become more diverse. I think it's definitely grown up past the, early to mid 2000s
Hmm.
standard of you know, mostly hip hop and R&B that's everybody knows. There's definitely more like international crowd now, which that and the invention of YouTube and Boiler Room and everything has like opened up the listener's ears a bit. Um so yeah, I mean New York's New York. It's like incredible diversity and amazing partiers, so to speak, like on a whole nother level. Miami's kind of the same way, but it feels like we're definitely getting there. Like the energy that's showing up to like Departed, for example, is pretty incredible. And these guys that are like touring the world that show up are like kind of blown away.
Yeah.
So
Feels like maybe just a smaller microcosm of those
Yeah.
for
larger
sure, for
cities, and it's
sure.
kind of leaning into getting there in the
Yep.
next however many years.
It's definitely like even the last like 5 years, it's definitely changed. So
We always joke about how small Philly is, how small the music scene really is here, and to the point of networking and building organic connections. It's such a small city, but it's still so vast at the same
Yeah.
time.
for sure.
And I think that with that, it's just going to keep blossoming, keep getting larger and larger, and maybe it will hit the same scale as, the New York music scene the next few years.
Yeah, I mean New York just has like the population and like the tourism numbers, that where Brooklyn Mirage is like, I'm sure there's what
Okay.
percentage of that every weekend is people that are not living in New York, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can get, on a level. I mean, New York's what, 6 times bigger than Philly, so
Yeah. I
but
wonder
hopefully we
where
can
they would
keep
even
building
throw an
and
event like that.
what's
Something
that?
like I said, I wonder where they would even throw like an event the size of like a Mirage
Yeah, it
concert.
doesn't
It's like we don't even have something that I guess could really handle that.
no. Navy Yard maybe.
That could be cool. Some kind of like open air outside thing at the Navy Yard would be fun.
Right.
Could see that. See that being cool.
Yeah. But they'll have to build the trains to get there. I feel like that'd be like the first step.
Right. Right. We're definitely not there yet.
Yeah. That would be a nice location actually. Um, right next to the water as well.
Yeah.
Damn.
All right, we got another business idea. It's
Yeah.
perfect.
I know.
Go team.
Uh,
Perfect.
in your journey so far, what's been the biggest challenge that you have had to deal with, whether that's with the events that you put together, whether it's collaborating with an artist, your personal journey, anything that you've gone through that you felt that was a challenge that you had to get over, that you could share?
I think it's just like the willpower to keep pushing through, you know? Like at this point, I've kind of gone through so many hurdles that I think I'm in a pretty good place, but still I'm at the bottom of the totem pole. And it's like when you get to the top of one mountain, you're at the bottom of the next kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Um, so, it's just, but it's really hard. I remember like one of my earliest gigs, it was one of my best friends, Femi, who I co-founded World Town with. He and I did this gig in West Philly. It was like a rainy night and, nobody showed up. And because it was like our second party or something, you know what I mean? And I remember just getting back home after that and just being like, wow, I suck. This sucks. What's the future? Just like being
Yeah.
super hard on myself. And he was just like, listen, it's only gonna get better from here. And I was like, all right. And it's rough because you're putting yourself out there. You're putting,
Yeah.
especially in the beginning, you're trying to figure out so many things at the same time, how to, you know, define your sound, how to pick tracks, how to actually blend them, how to, um, you know, throw a party and promote and, you want an audience, but you don't really know many people, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
no one knows you. So it's like a sort of catch 22. So the beginning's always super hard. So if anything is just like do it out of love in the beginning and just maintain that like fire of passion and things will get gradually become
How,
into place.
well, so how do you do that then? How you keep going or decide to keep going when there are so many like roadblocks along the way that you've hit that you're just like, damn, to your point that this shit sucks. How you say,
It's
yeah, I'm gonna get up and do it the next day.
it's
Or
just like it's like the passion, because even when it's like there's a failure with like a gig or a promoter or whatever, it's like, well, I'll just go to the studio and meditate, you know what I mean, and do some work. And so that's all you can do.
You're moving forward and you're growing and creating, it sounds like one way or the other.
Exactly. You just gotta stay active. Sometimes like the hardest part is just like getting it started, you know what I mean? It's kind of with anything, but
yeah.
so once you just kind of get in there and get the juices flowing a little bit, and it keeps flowing, and then all of a sudden it's 3, 4, 5 hours later, and you're in the zone, right?
You were saying getting locked in that studio for like 3 days in a row, not expecting that at all. I mean, I can't even imagine
Yeah.
what it's like to sit there and knock out music for that long.
Right, right.
Do you ever find that really challenging, or is it one of those things where like you're in the groove and you're just moving?
Yeah, I think it's that, but then also like I was so excited when, to be there and to have these guys, and I'm like, these guys have like are so talented and have such cool sounds.
Mhm.
Like I just want to make the like this is my chance to like to do it, you know what I mean? And so it was a very like almost adrenaline fueled
Mhm.
couple days.
Perfect opportunity in
Yeah.
front of you kind of thing. Yeah, make the
And it's
most
just
of it.
really exciting, and it's obviously like what I love to do. So it's like you just see it like unfolding, and there's these epic people that are just down to earth, super gracious, and like they're ready to record. So keeping it going.
And
The
then,
other thing, go
no,
ahead.
go
It
ahead.
was
Yeah, nah. I'm just thinking of like another artist. I think I saw on social media Connor Price. He's more of a rapper, but
Yeah.
he did something like that's similar, but he did an album, but with artists of different countries, where he was split the globe. He'll stop on a country, find an artist from that country, and then produce a song with them, and
Wow.
then create an album. I think with like over 10, 15 tracks. And he kind of just blew up on TikTok because of it. And great artist, kind of just like was an actor initially, and then it's like, hey, maybe I could rap a little bit, and started rapping and
Wow.
blew up. So like that's where like we tell you your stories of like collaborating with artists around like in these different countries. I'm thinking like, hey, I want to see more of that. 'Cause I think to your point of the two cultures blending together, it kind of connects people. It's like, oh, I know I'll like Afro beats. I'm like, all I've listened was like to typically like American pop, and
Right.
you find that one tune that you like kind of sync with, and he's like, all right, what else can I find in this genre? And you kind of go down a rabbit hole of like finding new artists, new music because of it.
That's the beauty of travel too, is like when you actually go somewhere and you see the genuine like interaction with the people and the music,
Yeah,
you just like it's like house music. Like if you have never heard it before and you just like play it on your phone or obviously it's bass heavy, but
yeah,
on like some headphones that you'd be like, wait, what? But then when you're in like a venue and everybody's like moving together and it's like this whole energetic thing, it's like, whoa.
yeah.
So wish everybody had the chance to get a passport and go to West Africa, go to Brazil, go to all these different places, Morocco, and like the world would be a more peaceful place.
That's certainly true.
Oh, yeah, that is very, very true. Um, and it's interesting because I found myself now doing that, finding like new artists, different countries, or just exploring new genres. I think in recent years, I've been stepping into like more country. Um,
Nice.
I guess country pop, like going to speak it. And it's been interesting. It's been a genre I thought I'd never be interested in at all. But I think new artists venturing into space like Shabuzi, stepping into it, adding a little twist to it, adding a little hip hop country to it.
Right.
I think Nelly doing songs with like Florida Georgia Line make it kind of blends two different genres to
Yeah,
create
it's
something
great.
new. And
Brings people together.
yeah,
We just found this my lady, she just introduced me to this artist that is from Vermont as well, actually, and I hadn't heard of him until last night, but he's making like pretty amazing kind of country, a little bit poppy, but
yeah,
we like looked him up and he's like top 150 artists streamed in the world right now or something. I'm
Really?
like, are you kidding me?
god
Wow.
damn. You know his name?
Let me ask. Hang on one second.
Okay.
Yes, we need to know.
Nuveen, what's the name of the guy from Vermont? The artist Noah Kahan? Noah Kahan?
No.
Oh, Noah Kahan?
Kahan.
Yeah, I saw him actually perform last year at a festival. He was awesome. He was great. He was the headliner. I didn't even know he was from Vermont.
Crazy. I had no idea. And
Really good.
yeah, we were listening to his stuff. It was like, whoa, this is awesome. And then it was like, look at the Spotify profile, and it's like
Yeah.
100 million listeners a month or something. I was like, what?
He,
Or something. Maybe it's like 20, but still, I was like, this guy is crushing.
yeah, he's cool. So many people. I went to a festival was last year called Love and Life, and it was in Charlotte, North Carolina. And he was the headliner one of the days, and all my friends knew who he was. I had no clue.
Right,
One of those
right,
people when I go to a festival like that, I'm like, I'll see whoever. I just want to
sure.
be there to listen to the music. Doesn't matter if I've never heard of you or any of your.
Yeah, it's almost that's the place to check out new
That's
music.
the best
Yeah.
spot to find new acts. But he was great, and he just, I think you can really tell with a lot of artists when somebody's a genuinely good human. He just had like such a bright spirit. He seemed like such a good dude in general
It's awesome.
that you can't help but to root for them, you know? It was
Yeah.
infectious. Like he had everybody singing at the end of the night. So he
Yeah,
was
it's super
good.
catchy, amazing voice.
Very catchy.
Usman, check him out if you have a
Yeah.
chance.
No, I
Yeah,
definitely will.
Sounds like he's kind of up the, that alley of country pop.
yeah, definitely. I would say so.
Uh, in making music, every artist, I guess, make music for a different reason. What would you want people to take away from the music that you make?
I think, the fact of like exposing different cultures through the music is like huge for me. And like I really would love people to take the opportunity of travel more seriously. I think like in this country we're kind of like it's like underwhelming how many people have passports. And I think the world would be a better place if everybody had the chance to like break bread with people in a complete opposite part of the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just you realize that there's good people everywhere, and it's like it feels like most of the actual quote unquote bad people are the ones that are haven't stepped outside their comfort zone and just have these like ideas of what they think is truth elsewhere.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of been my mission all along is to unite people through music. So with World Town and Departed in a more subtle way, but
If if you had to pick a track that you produced that embodies that message, what would it be?
oh wow,
Tough question.
tough one.
Putting him on the hot seat.
Which one is it?
Ask the audience. Ask the audience.
Um, Jeez, that is hard.
Maybe like top two or three, if you can't
Top
narrow
two
it
or
down.
three.
Yeah.
One of the most beautiful tracks I've ever uh been a part of is called Freedom by World Town Sound System. That one, shout out to Zeke Burst on vocals. The remix of Allah Sudan, that's Mokhtar Ghania and Ganawa Soul.
Yeah.
That one's gorgeous. We just put out a track called Miles.
Yeah.
That's pretty poppin'. That's like a like um more modern take, I guess. Let's see what else.
Uh, so I have Miles on my list, and then
Nice.
finally Money Comes.
Oh yeah, I love that track.
Yeah.
It's
That
with
was
a Nigerian singer. He's really cool. Terry the Voice.
yeah. It's like, oh, damn.
Yep. That one
That's
gets
good.
it going though. It's
It
so funny
does.
because it's like it's very, very Nigerian, the vocals. It's
Yeah.
like the group vocals, the chant. But like every time like so at my gigs at Vinyl in downtown, that one has kind of become like a staple since it came out. And it's funny because it's like Terry will pull up on me sometimes at those gigs. And so people just go crazy and like no one's heard the track before, you know? It's like not didn't really get a lot of radio play. It's
Yeah.
it's like but it's just one of those tracks. It's like when it at midnight or 1 a.m. and everybody's feeling good and like those group vocals come on, it's like it just lights it up.
And it's that energy.
It's that energy.
Yeah.
That
Keeps the people
energy.
going.
I'll send you a playlist of stuff that's not out yet. You can see the newer sound too.
Okay. I
Perfect.
appreciate that.
Please. Love that.
Wait, I did notice though, like you have a couple EPs, singles. Would you ever like release a full album?
Think so. I think like right now I'm just in the sort of like more like growth phase, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to just be really consistent with singles
Yeah.
and focus on like the more like one-off collaborations with different labels and artists
Hmm.
and expand that way. And then down the line when I get a bit more established like internationally, I think an album would be great. But building up the the listener base is sort of where we're at. We have the Philly audience, which has been super supportive and awesome, but it's like, I've been doing these kind of like free download of like unsolicited remixes, you could say, like Doja Cat and Adina Howard, and we did a Don Tolliver one that's gonna come out soon, and what's the other one? Travis Scott. So that kind of stuff on SoundCloud is sort of like building that up, building up the listener base. Just it's like an easy. That's some advice I got like years ago that I never really started following until last year. Really, it's like take something somebody knows or people know,
Mhm.
put your music to it. So
It's the like Virgil. Um, he's a designer for Nike. He
Virgil
passed.
Abloh, yeah,
Yeah, but
Off-White.
his method was the same thing. It's like take something that people already know. So he would take like the Air Force Ones, Jordan ones, and then change about 3 different things
right,
to it, and there's a new design. And I
yep,
feel like the same thing with music. You change a few things here and there is a new song.
yeah, exactly.
So
It's like what are the and it's funny that it breaks down like this, but it's sort of like reverse engineering. What are the drums that are going to work at Departed? What are the melodies that are going to work? What are the actual, and then so it's almost become like, scientific where it's like, this is the bass that I like. This is the kick drum. These are the kind of percussions, and then this last like 3 or 4 months, I've been in the studio a lot and I've been recycling a lot of the same sounds. And it's like to define my sound, you know what I mean? 'Cause it's like, this is my band, the sound set, you know what I mean? So it's been a lot of fun.
it's awesome. One way that we like to end this podcast is asking every guest on the show a 2-part question. First one being, what's the best advice that you've ever received? Whether it's from a parent, a friend, teacher in grade school, that you'd like to share with other people. And
Yeah.
then what's the worst advice that you've ever received that you tell people to stay away from? You never want to share with them.
I mean, the best advice in this journey was a good friend of mine said, as long as you play music you genuinely love, people are gonna love it.
Yeah.
The right people are gonna love it.
Better.
So funny.
Well, thank you so, so much for your time tonight. We love chatting with you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And
It's
thank
great.
you for sharing all of these different pieces of all of the cultures that you've experienced with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Very, very interesting to learn about today. And
Thank you.
we always love a shameless plug on this show. I know you have some upcoming events. I'm not sure how much you can share at this point, but please let everyone know where they can find you online and what you have coming up.
I guess the best place to keep in touch is Instagram. We post all the up and coming stuff. So it's been Arsenal and Departed Together, as well as World Town. Those are the 3 handles. So
Yeah.
Perfect.
Awesome.
hope
Thank
Thank
to
you,
you
see
man.
so
you.
much.
Yeah,
We'll,
hope to see you guys soon.
we'll have you back and we'll be at the Harris Pool for
Yeah.
sure.
Amazing. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ben.
Have a great night. See you soon.
You too. Bye.
Take care.